Hello friends. Oh, is my mic okay? Yes, it is. Today I wanted to talk about Past Lives, the movie that changed my brain chemistry. So this all started for me a few months ago. I was looking for some good music to meditate to. Sometimes I like to use movie soundtracks because they just take you on these awesome journeys, and the song that for the end credits of Past Lives came onto my shuffle. It's called See You, by composers Christopher Bear and Daniel Rosen, I think, and I could not recommend that song enough, let alone the whole soundtrack. But I was listening to like some random playlist on YouTube, trying to find new tunes, and that song popped up, and about 30 seconds into it I started to register this just beautiful, very soft jazzy vibe, and I was so moved by it. So I went and listened to the whole soundtrack after that, and I came to find that the rest of it was also absolutely fantastic, and that's all it really took. The soundtrack was phenomenal, and it was just so beautiful in its simplicity. So I knew then that I had to check out this film. A few days later, I'm at home for the evening after a long day at uni, and I'm looking for a calm film to wind down the day with. And I think to myself, oh, hey, why not check out that film from that new soundtrack that you're loving? So I go to Google and I find where I can watch it, and come to find it's on one of the Australian streaming platforms. I think it's moved now, but I think you can still find it here in Australia. So I would say go check it out. But yeah, I went and checked it out, and I found I did actually recognize the cover, and I think I was like 5 minutes into it. So I had seen it a small portion of it once. But then I kind of remembered that, like, I'm pretty sure it was very gently paced, and I was like, oh, it might be a bit of a thinker, so I'll come back to it another time. And I was right. When I started watching it the day that I came home from uni, I found that it was something you kind of had to sit there and wait for the story to build a little bit. But, you know, it wasn't a chore. It's not like something I had to let grow on me, because as soon as I just sort of breathed into and settled into the experience, it really just felt like it relaxed me more deeply into my experience of life itself. It was almost like meditative. So thank God I did let myself breathe and just surrender to the experience, because it was such a beautiful one. At the end of the film, when the end credits were rolling, and that first song that I heard that roped me into like listening to the whole thing, it started playing, and I was sobbing my little heart out. And I immediately began texting my mum to let her know about this incredible film that I'd just seen, that I was having a spiritual experience. And yeah, it was just immediately I started telling everyone I knew about it. So now that I've told you how I found this beautiful piece of artwork, let's talk about the theme, Past Lives. So I think I was originally, the first time before I only watched 5 minutes of it or whatever, the first time I kind of came across it, I think I was originally curious about it because, it's called Past Lives. So I think in my mind I was like, oh, it's about reincarnation. We get this sort of like crazy experience about people time traveling and falling in love again. And I guess you could say that's kind of it. But it's not the story I expected it to be. But it was just as beautiful of a tale. I think you could probably describe it as like a right person, wrong time sort of story, but I think it's so much more than that. I think that's a trope that people would probably like to box it into, but the way in which the story was told, there was so much peace, letting go, and acceptance just intrinsically woven into the essence of the story. It was so interesting because at a certain point, you as an audience member start to clue in that this isn't a fairy tale story. There is no happily ever after the way we like to see in like a Disney film. But I don't know, I think maybe there is a much more profound happily ever after that is conveyed in this message of release and accepting where you're at in life and moving on. There is a happily ever after in the story, which tells you it's okay to outgrow different versions of you, maybe even vital. And it doesn't diminish the love and the learning that you garnered through those past versions of you. There's this pivotal moment at the end of the film where one of our main characters, Hae Sung, asks the other, Nora, if she thinks that they could be together in a future life. He kind of asks whom they might be to each other then. And Nora just really simply and beautifully replies that she doesn't know. And this is just one of the many, many, many moving moments in this film. But I love it because she doesn't humour the two of them. In this moment, she chooses to just really face the music of what this relationship with Hae Sung has meant to her, what it's represented for her, and decides she's really ready to just fully release the emotional and mental weight that this has been for her. In the very final scene, she cries like a schoolgirl who's just cut her knee. She's like an open wound, and there is such a beautiful catharsis in seeing her so fully feel her feelings and sort of just let them go. Like, lets this energy of hers return back to its original place in time as the schoolgirl who immigrated from Korea. Of course, that's just my interpretation of this incredible film. The real reason I'm talking about it is because of the profound shift it allowed me to have of my experience after watching this. So, like I mentioned earlier, there were some seriously important themes for me that I felt were woven into the fabric of this film. And first and foremost for me, that was acceptance. Like I said, if you had to describe the film to someone in just a few words, you could probably say, it's a right person, wrong time sort of story. But like I said, I think that's so reductionist because the reality is that life isn't that simple. There is no clear right or wrong. The way we like to think of it, it's not so black and white. And I think Celine Song, the director, writer, and creator of this film, encapsulated that so beautifully. She conveyed the way in which we're just experiencing life happening. We are in many ways the center of our own realities, and it's so easy to construct narratives and stories around our lives as if we're in some well-produced Hollywood TV show. But it's stripped back, it's stripped back film like this that reminds you that life is so much more beautiful, rich and complex than a perfect packaged little stories that we're so often told. So for me, ultimately, it just really showed me if we take a bit more time in our lives to just sit in acceptance with our feelings and the learning that happens to us as we journey through this beautiful thing we call life, then maybe we can find just a bit more peace and serenity in it all. At least that was my takeaway, really. And for weeks after this film, I found myself practicing a bit more purposeful mindfulness, just enjoying the stillness amongst all the beautiful chaos of life. And since then, I found myself a good deal happier to take things in stride and just see where life takes me next. So if you haven't seen this film, I really couldn't recommend it enough. And if you have, I would love to know what your thoughts were. How did this film make you feel? What were your takeaways? Let me know in the comments. I would love to chat about it. Yeah, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Okay, bye.